One Piece is real! Hello and welcome back to Mangastorian. I am Benny, also known as the Comicstorian. I read a lot of manga, and on this channel I talk about my experiences reading different manga, some old, some new. Overall, I'm reading the manga and telling you all about it. And every Friday, we release a One Piece Reading Club read-along. Today we're going to be covering 629 to 653, the remainder of the Fishman Island arc and what I thought about the overall experience doing the completion of the arc. As a standard reminder, I'm reading the manga, not watching the anime. My experiences and things that I found important are what I took notes about. That doesn't mean the rest of it wasn't important. Now, before we go into today's episode, I do want to clarify one thing that I was not aware was a joke, but apparently the entire comment section of our previous video wanted to make me aware that it was a joke. I thought when Sanji declared he found the All Blue, that he found the All Blue. Apparently, and maybe this comes across better in the anime, the All Blue is more just him going, oh, I found my All Blue, all the mermaid women. I wasn't aware it was a joke. You all wanted me to know that it was a joke, so thank you. I don't know what I would have done if like 250 of you didn't tell me that Sanji was joking. I mean, 1, 2, 4, 20, that might not have been enough. I needed all 250 of you telling me that it was a joke to fully know that that was a joke by Sanji. So I thank you. I really appreciate that. Okay, so picking up where we left off, it started off very slow. Now, I left off on the last bit of the story when it was decided that the Straw Hats were going to come into the fight and that Luffy needed to be a part of this to save Fishman Island. So I assumed that they would be a part of it. No, that is not the case. The next few chapters was a lot of back and forth between the various factions of the Fishman and trying to convince each other and go through the steps. The issue I had with this is, honestly, I was having an issue following the character designs of the Fishman on the manga. Because there's just a lot of wavy lines and all, I think the anime probably makes it perfectly fine, because without the motion, it was just a lot of wavy lined guys talking and fighting, and I couldn't really follow what was happening with the Fishman. I'll just admit it. It was kind of all over the place. The anime probably once again did a much better job with the whole thing. Hodi kicks off. We show that he's got the juice. He's like super G'd up. He's ready to fight everybody. We also reveal that he killed the king or queen. That came out at the beginning. Shirahoshi knew this, but kept it secret because she didn't want her mom's last wishes were for them not to seek vengeance. So she didn't want to tell her brothers for fear that they would seek vengeance. Lines up. Okay. That was a pretty fun little moment. But that's when we get to the reveal of where Luffy is and where the Straw Hats are and why they haven't been a part of this moment. They're all hiding in the shark. They're in the shark. So the shark opens up and they all just come piling out. Like, that shark is huge. And I kind of knew it was because it carried Wimpy around. So it made sense that it was huge, but I just found it funny that that's where they all were. I remember reading it and being like, that's where you were hiding. So I don't know why I didn't put that together sooner. I even wrote in my notes here, in all caps, Straw Hats have arrived. Now, once again, if you don't know, because you've just recently joined us, I'm the only one reading these notes. No one else reads these notes. Dan doesn't even have access to the notes. And Luffy then decided to graduate Wimpy to Wimpy Hoshi. So I liked that. That was fun. And he also got to show off hockey. Now, I got a lot of fun notes here, and this was a lot of fun moments within the Fishman Island arc. Sanji can fly now because of his abilities to do the flying foot thing. So not truly fly, but he can definitely go up high. Robin can turn into a giant with her powers. That's a lot of cool. They gave Chopper a tank. Chopper's crying because he's now Pilot Chopper. I loved that. Luffy's friendship with the Kraken allowed the Kraken to overall win. I do think Frankie got even worse with the giant robot design and the way he was doing a bunch of stuff. Although I did like the jokes about the giant robot, that he finally made the giant robot, and that Chopper and Usopp and everybody was all happy that they finally got their giant robot dreams. Chopper also has a new form, which I think is probably his best looking form, the stag beetle form, where the horns are just massive and everything. I liked that one a lot. And basically, Luffy's just walking around dropping people automatically with hockey. Now, this sequence of battling stuff continues for quite a while, and I actually, for the first time, had a problem with the fights in One Piece. So Luffy eventually leaves. If Vander Decken, I got his name. I just wrote Decken. No, Vander. Okay, Vander Decken throws the Noah, which is this giant ship, at the island to just destroy the whole island and kill Wimpy Hoshi and call it a day. Luffy Shirahoshi, knowing this is going on, is now swimming away from the island so that the ship will crash only into her, so she's sacrificing herself. And Luffy is trying to it's going to turn into a battle against Hodi, but at first he's just trying to get the ship out of, like, not breaking the island and not breaking Shirahoshi. Instead, he's going to try to break the ship. So that's going on over there. Now, the fights in this particular sequence are where I kind of got bored for the first time reading this whole thing. And it's not for any reason other than it was just a lot of stuff showing how cool they are now. Like, once my brain kind of clicked that that's what we were doing, like Zoro doing awesome 3-sword maneuvers, Sanji flying, Robin having giant legs and stomping on people, Chopper being Pilot Chopper. It was just constantly them doing cool things and complimenting each other. And that was cool. I'm not disliking that at all. But it did get a little boring because it felt like it went on for a very long time, because very quickly I realized there's no challenge here for them. They're just going to win, and we're just showing off their powers. So once all the powers were kind of shown, if I'm starting to get bored of chapters of manga, normally what happens is I'll start checking my phone. Just my brain wanders, and I just like, oh, what's going on Reddit? And then my brain goes, you're literally reading something. Why are you checking Reddit? Now, normally that happens after like 5 to 10 chapters or a lull in the story, and then my brain's just kind of like checked out. And I go, okay, stop reading, because you're not going to pay attention. Just go check Reddit, because apparently that's what your brain wants to do. You want dopamine off of Reddit. Go check that. And that started to happen in the middle of this fight sequence, which has never, and I mean never, happened during the big moments in One Piece. So as much as I was enjoying it, I did find it to kind of be a little boring and a little drag. Only because they were just winning. There was no conflict, there was no problem. And I know the point of that. The point was to show how strong they had gotten, show off their cool new moves, and all of that is cool. But I think I kind of mentally checked out once I caught on that we were just going to win. There is no challenge here. Again, this isn't me like bashing on it, because I did enjoy it, but it's the first time that we ever got to that. And I'm assuming that's not going to be how it continues. It's a pretty safe assumption with any story that has gone from, where are we at, chapter 650 now, and still going to 1100, that the fights are not going to just turn into, look how amazing we are. I'm assuming we're going pretty much back to the way things were before this. So basically, during this battle sequence, Vanderdecken dies, which sends the Noah off in a weird kind of spiral. They don't quite know where it's going. Basically, it was chasing Shirahoshi. Vanderdecken ends up dying or getting stabbed by the prince. It's no longer chasing Shirahoshi, so it's beginning to plummet back to Fishman Island. This is where Luffy's trying to break it apart, and he gets into a battle against Hodi. And the exact same problem happened in the Hodi fight that kind of happened for me before, where I just didn't find the Hodi versus Luffy fight that interesting, because Luffy wasn't struggling. It was just, how strong is Luffy now? Look at him decimate Hodi. There was like no real fight to it. And again, it was awesome, just not as, I guess the best way to put it is, it wasn't as engaging as normal. Because while normally, obviously they're going to win, it's engaging because you feel like there are stakes. You feel like that, like when he's going through Impel Down, you know he's going to get to the bottom of it. At least I did, because there's another 500, 600 chapters left. There's no way Luffy's going to die here, but the stakes are he's trying to get to Ace. You know what I mean? At that point. At the point of Water 7 and Enies Lobby, they're not going to die. I didn't think Usopp was actually leaving the crew. I've seen posters of what the crew is looking like right now. I know Jinbei's gonna one day join. Although apparently I thought it was now, but it's not, so whatever. So I knew Usopp wasn't leaving permanently, but there were stakes. How long until Usopp's back on the crew? I knew Robin was gonna get rescued, but is she rescued here? Or is that something that's going to happen later? These are the stakes. Luffy's getting his butt kicked by CP9 and all this other stuff going on. But I just didn't feel like there was any real stakes in Fishman Island, because there's no way they weren't going to win. And I almost feel like they knew this writing it. Like if Oden knew what he was doing, because he's like, well, I need better stakes. If I'm going to have the heroes win no matter what, we need stakes. What if they lose Fishman Island? And that was the only thing to me that was like, well, I wonder where this is going to go. Is the Noah going to crash into Fishman Island? Are they going to kill a bunch of the fishmen? No, they didn't. And the resolution was very interesting and very cool. But again, the battle between Luffy and Hodi just wasn't as exciting because there was no stakes in the battle. The battle itself was Hodi trying to get rid of Luffy. And Luffy being like, no, I'm crazy strong now. Yeah, no, it's nice knowing you. Goodbye. You know? And I think there's another problem to that, and this is what I was going to get to eventually. I think Hodi is just a weak villain. The concept behind Hodi and a lot of the side stuff going on in here, and somebody, I'm not even going to take credit for this because I didn't see that reference, but in the last video, somebody brought up that it was Odahime is basically Martin Luther King, while Fisher is Malcolm X. And so it's a whole thing about, you know, race fights and civil, not race fights. What's the word? I'm trying to think, what's the word I'm thinking of? It's a whole thing about racial inequality and slavery and things like that. And I get that, and I understand the story behind it. And the actual story of Fishman Island I found really interesting because of that stuff, and the backstory with Fisher and Hodi and all of that. And I get what they were going for. The reason why Hodi didn't have some crazy background or some crazy story is they were trying to tell the story that you don't always have, in the words of Joker and Batman, it's not always one bad day. In all honesty, if you're just raised around hate, you're just going to hate. That's all it is. There's nothing in Hodi's life that made him hate the humans. He was just around people who hated the humans, and this is who he is now. And I get that. I actually really like that as a background for the villain, but it also removed all stakes from the villain because there was no interweaving plot or story and stuff like that. And they really did a good job by having the other characters, I think it was Sharky, grabbing the kids and telling them, no, you need to watch the humans saving us. You need to see that if watching the humans be evil is what turned Hodi evil, then watch the humans be good so that these kids can be raised properly. And we can maybe start fighting against racial inequality and slavery and all this other crazy stuff going on in the world of One Piece. And I get that. And I totally was on board with that. And I liked the story. I really did. My problem with it just overall was I feel like there was a lack of stakes in the actual combat. But it worked well because the actual story around the combat was a really good one. The backstory of Fishman Island, the hatred for the humans, and then the humans being prisoners, teaming up with the Fishmen. All of this stuff was a really good story around it. But like it just felt like it was missing that one piece, that piece of the One Piece. Like the way I've looked at every arc has been really sad, awesome storyline. Because they're all sad. I can't think of anyone that was happy in the end. They're all just really, really sad, and everyone in One Piece needs to cry themselves to sleep. But a really sad and awesome story, but combined with really good action and fight sequences. And if we go back to like Skypiea and my complaints that it just felt like a side quest, and the story itself didn't hit too hard with me, but the fights were awesome, I feel like Fishman Island's the exact opposite. The story was really good, and what it referenced and what it was implying was all great, and I loved it. But the fights are really weak. So the fights just didn't have stakes, and I just didn't care as much about them. It's interesting because I do like this, and I'm excited to see where we're going to go, but I was expecting to be more involved once the Straw Hats got involved because the first big batch of chapters was just building up all of this history only for this. And so then I got to go to the next location. The battle against Hodi was fast. The debate over if the fishmen should trust humans and who are visibly defending them. That was the next thing, and that's why they had to have the kids watch the humans who are defending them. I wrote down the audience a way of looking at Odahime as Martin Luther King versus Fisher as Malcolm X. I have a baseline knowledge on that history. I'm not going to even try to claim I'm some historian for any of that stuff, but I at least recognize what was going on. Sharky wanting the kids to witness the humans saving them so that they remember, since the acts of the humans on the kid for Arlong, Fisher, and Hodi stayed with them. Koala and stuff like that, where she was like, no, they saved me and they went through. So I felt like that was what Sharky was aiming for. Basically telling like Koala, hey, well, not Koala, but these kids like Koala, look, they're saving us, so don't hate them. And I liked this little moment. It was commented that the kids need to remember that the humans are saving them. And I added my own note of the humans and a reindeer and a robot and a skeleton saved them. So it wasn't just all humans. There was a lot of weird stuff going on here. I wrote the fights weren't very epic since they were instantly defeating most of their enemies. It was more about world building and the message that they were trying to convey across, which combined to the fight makes for good pacing in my opinion. I just thought the fights needed better stakes. That's really what it came down to. But now we get to the ending where like the world building really comes to head. Luffy can't stop the ship. The ship has got a history, and we're going to find out about the history soon. But the Neptunians stop the Noah. And we discover that not only are the Neptunians stopping the Noah, the Neptunians can talk. And that Wimpy Hoshi can talk to them. And it's very heavily implied, and I'm not sure if I missed something, but that Luffy can also talk to them. But I think he just hears them. He didn't try talking to them yet. He can just kind of hear the Neptunians from what I was getting from that. Because I wrote, Luffy heard them just like Goldie Roger. Because when Goldie Roger was under the ocean, he said that he could hear things, but he didn't talk to the Neptunians. So is Luffy just a reincarnation of Goldie Roger at this point? He's got his hat, he can talk, he's got all his powers, but whatever. I'm not even going to throw that in there. We then jump to the end where Jinbei gives his blood to Luffy, breaking the no blood for humans law. And then it left off with Jinbei, you got to join my crew, which obviously is not where it goes. Jinbei does not join the crew for quite some time from what I've gathered. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. I thought the arc was fun. It was not up there in my top like big arcs, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't negative or anything like that. The only complaint I have now is by Jinbei joining the crew. I don't know how long it's going to be, if it's next arc or if it's 20 arcs from now. Is the crew getting too big? Because when we were going through the fight sequence, as much as I love all the crew members, I felt like it was weird because everyone was just, look at what Chopper can do. Look at what Brook can do. Look at what Frankie can do. And it just kind of felt weird. Like we got to give everyone some time. We got to give everyone some time to fight. We got to show them what they can do. The crew's at a good size right now. Should we be including more? I know they do, but just my own opinion. And maybe it's nothing. Maybe once he joins, it's still nothing. Maybe everyone gets a role. But I have heard the complaints of like, oh, certain crew members get pushed to the back burner because they're going to focus on some key members. Then we go to the resolution of the whole thing. We discover that there's a new admiral, like Jinbei fills him in on the admiral swapping around what Blackbeard's goals are, where he's just kind of going around stealing devil fruit powers. And we kind of resolve it with a pick the fight with Big Mom, who, interesting. Big Mom's an interesting character design, just a giant head from what I saw in this portion. And I thought you all would appreciate this. You remember the character that looks like Zoro's friend who's working with Smoker? I've just dubbed not Kunia, and that's what I've called her since the beginning. They called her by her name, and I wrote it down for once. Tashigi. I learned her name. When did she get introduced? Wasn't it like Whiskey Peak or something like that? So like 500 chapters. But yeah, that's where we are. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I like the message they were getting across, but I don't want to sit here and just repeat myself. We will be continuing One Piece Fridays. Holy cow, guys. Punk Hazard is next, 654 to 699, and then I'm at Dressrosa. I can play all the games and look at the card game finally. We are almost at Dressrosa, finally. Yes. Wow, it's been a long ride. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Don't forget to check back at the beginning of the week. We're trying to put out other series. I just did Dragon Ball Super, and we're going to be doing Zom 100 next week. So let me get your opinions on that one, and I will see you at the next One Piece Reading Club. Thank you guys so much.